Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to our November 16th, 2021 Board of County Commissioners meeting. We are coming back to DPQJ1, Hope Sound Bible College requests alteration of an existing preserve area in which is subject to an approved preserve area management plan. Ms. McCarthy.
It's a quasi-judicial matter.
Oh, you're right. Thank you for that.
He's new.
He's new. Commissioner Hurd, do you have any quasi-judicial?
I don't, and they've been filed.
Commissioner Campy?
I don't.
Commissioner Heatherington?
I do not.
And Commissioner
Been filed.
Jenkins?
I don't think I do, but if I agree they've been filed.
And the best of my knowledge, I don't have any unless we got emails, and if they are, they'll be filed.
You need
What
to
else?
swear anyone in who's going to be providing testimony. Miss,
Raise your right hands. Do you swear or affirm that the evidence you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Do we have any interveners? Seeing
no, and no
none,
notices were required.
then we can go to the item.
I have provided a copy of my work history and agenda item as Exhibit 1. Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Sean McCarthy. I'm a planner in the Growth Management Department. This item is a request by the Hope Sound Bible College for an alteration of the existing upland preserve area and an amendment to the approved Preserve Area Management Plan, known as a PAMP, that was approved in 2007. For reference, this is the Bible College located in Hope Sound, southeast, west of Southeast Gomez Avenue, and just north of Bridge Road, which is down here. In 2007, the PAMP was established an upland preserve area situated around the perimeter of the site, along the north and west and south ends. I'll show you a better map here in a second. The preserve area is shown in this diagonal cross-hatching here, or along the perimeter. The total preserve acreage at the time of approval in 2007 was 3.99 acres of the 14.08 acre site. In accordance with Section 4.36.c of the Land Development Regulations, there should not be any alteration of the size, shape, or design of a previously approved preserve area without approval by the Board of County Commissioners. An applicant shall make a written request for the alteration of the preserve area, including the reason for the request and the extent of the alteration. The Growth Management Department shall make a recommendation to the board regarding the need for the change and the restoration or enhancement necessary to compensate for the alteration. Amendments to a PAMP or alteration of a preserve area must meet all the requirements of the original PAMP. The reason for the alteration is to allow siting and construction of a new gymnasium, shown here, approximately 13,500 square feet gymnasium, and to allow a few existing pedestrian pathways used by the college to access residential homes. The gymnasium is being reviewed concurrently through an application for a revised minor final site plan. The total preserve area proposed to be removed is approximately 3,983 square feet, shown in the darker cross-hatchings where my cursor is, these areas here and down here. To compensate for the removal, the applicant is proposing approximately 6,769 square feet of upland habitat to be added as preserve, and that is shown with this cross-hatching in these various areas here, and especially down here where there's nice upland scrub habitat. With the proposed removals and the additions, the total preserve area will be increased to approximately 4.02 acres. County environmental staff has verified through a site inspection that the proposed areas are similar or same type of upland habitat that's being removed. In addition, the applicant has provided an upland preserve maintenance plan to address some compliance issues in order to ensure the preserve areas will be in compliance with the original PAMP. The maintenance plan will be part of the PAMP amendment. The proposed preserve area alteration has been reviewed by the growth management staff and found to be in compliance as meeting the applicable requirements in the land development regulations and the comp plan. If the preserve alteration is approved by the board, the proposed PAMP amendment will be recorded in Martin County Public Records. Therefore, staff recommends that the board receive and file the agenda item summary and all of its attachments, including the proposed preserve area alteration and PAMP amendment attached as Exhibit 1. That concludes my presentation. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Sean, thank you very much. Commissioners, any questions for staff? Hearing none. Mr. Crady, on behalf of
Afternoon.
the applicant?
Yes, here on behalf of Hope Sound Bible College, my name is Morris Crady, and we're in agreement with staff recommendation, just making a slight adjustment to add the gymnasium. And you'll note on the site, they've retained a lot of the existing vegetation. They're not clearing anything until they actually need to clear it. So, that's not preserve area in the middle, that's future development area, but they're retaining it until they need it. So that's why we made an adjustment to accommodate the gymnasium and had other compensation available.
Commissioner Campy, Morris, hang on a second.
The gentleman with you is from the Hobe Sound Bible College?
You want to introduce yourself?
Thank you, Commissioner. I'm Wesley Holden, Administrator at Hope Sound Bible College.
Fantastic.
Welcome.
Question for you, sir. A very important question. Are you having the singing Christmas tree this year?
Yes,
What are the
December
dates?
the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th, 7 o'clock. Doors open at 6.
I will tell you, have been there many times with my family, it's one of the nicest events Martin County does in the holidays. And for those that have not been there, it's a free event you guys put on, right?
It is.
And it is remarkably fantastic. So
Well,
I'm
thank you,
just
sir.
so happy that you're having it again. And I would,
Having it last year.
You wanna make a motion?
26th presentation.
yeah, it's awesome. Just
like to-
save me a seat.
I'd like to move to approve.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any public comment on this at all? This is a public hearing as well as quasi-judicial. Seeing none, back to the board. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All is opposed. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Sean, thank you.
Tell Nancy we said hi.
Last item on the agenda today is Department 3, discussion of redistricting the county commission districts based upon the 2020 census data, which we do periodically every 10 years, correct? Or every census? Every census.
Good afternoon, members of the board. My name is Clyde Doolin, Comprehensive Planning Administrator, and with me is
Samantha Lovelady with Martin County Growth Management.
we're going to go over the board item briefly and see if you have any questions. I'm going to skip to the supplemental memo. Every 10 years, Martin County must redistrict the commission districts. The last time this was done was in 2011. It's done on the odd numbered years. Ms. Lovelady has done these calculations and put together most of this work, so I may at times need to refer to her for assistance here. The 2020 decennial census showed 158,431 people in Martin County. The 2010 decennial census showed 146,318 people was the population. It's an increase of 12,113 persons over the entire county, incorporated and unincorporated. That's, as the numbers say, 8.28% for the 10-year period and 0.83% annually, so less than 1% growth annually. That's the basic information to get started. Here on the screen is the commission districts that you all have been working within and represent, and the areas that you represent for the last 10 years. We did, at that time, as I said, it was 146,318, and when you divide by 5 That's a targeted number of 29,263 for each district. And I'll just enlarge the screen for you a little bit so you can see that we were looking at a small deviation between districts, and the population was not exactly the targeted 29,263. It was over by some and over by 30, by 17, by 33, by 133, and by 56 in the different districts. Likewise, we will be showing you some options that also are over and under a targeted number. But this table illustrates where the numbers approximately were increased, or the changes in each district by district. As you can see, District 5 had the largest number of new residents
It's obvious.
popular place.
I came back.
District 3 had the smallest number of additional residents in the last 10 years, and the other 3 districts were very comparable in the 2000s. And so we're going to show you option 1, and this is a substantial difference.
Show them what our target is.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. The target is 31,686 for each district. Take the 2020 population, divide by 5, and that's our target. And here's how Ms. Lovelady, her first cut at trying to come up with districts that would balance. In places like District 5, where there was a large population increase, we had to decrease the acreage in the area in order to try and add some population to the other districts.
People moved to District 5 for a reason. And now they're going to be disappointed.
So in this first option, as you can see, District 3 got a lot larger.
Yeah.
It extended north a little bit into what was District 4. It extends north of the B-line into District 5 and here. The nice thing about this arrangement is that all of the village of Indiantown is in one district instead of being represented by 2 different districts, which is one of the goals in statute to try and accomplish. District 2 decreased in size somewhat. District 4, in order to try and balance the numbers in this first option, District 4 extended west of the C-44 canal, whereas today it is all east of the C-44 canal. And District 4 also extended a bit south down to the Foxwood area. We'll show you a blown-up version of that last map so that you can see how District 4 changed and how District 2 changed a little bit. District 2 currently today extends to the Turnpike, which is where my cursor is. And even in this first option, District 2 had to be contracted back to I-95. District 4 had to be expanded in this option. This is west of the C-44 canal, and this western line is Citrus Boulevard. This line is I-95, and this south line here is 96th Street near the Arundel Bridge. This option got the numbers pretty close. As you can see, here are the numbers, and our deviation from our target of 31,686 is 76 over, 319 over, 33 over, 239 under, and 188 under. That's the first option, and this was all done by simply following the software for redistricting and not having to do any manual changes to the districts or to the census blocks that in some cases cross the existing commission districts. Option 2 is very much like option 1, except one respect. District 4 does not extend to the west side of the C-44 canal into what has always been District 5. All the other features are the same, but as you can see from doing that change, the numbers get worse. District 4 is 646 below the targeted number. So obviously we won't be recommending option 2. And in fact, our preferred option, or we are recommending the board consider here today at this meeting is option 3. Again, District 3, like you saw in the other options, extends this to the same places in northwestern Martin County. District 5 is the same as in those other options. In this option, though, in order to make the numbers work more in a more balanced fashion, District 1 was decreased in size a little bit. District 2 was decreased in size even further. We'll show you in some later slides. At this point where my cursor is, District 2 contracted so that it is to the east side of the South Fork of the St. Lucie. District 3 extended north on both sides of US 1, and in addition to the location that it previously extended north into and met District 4. As you'll see, there's one other thing I wanted to show you. District 3 crosses over the C-44 canal, where my cursor is following, and runs along Citrus Boulevard in this location.
Yeah, we're massing our troops at the canal there to hold back District 3 later today.
So the numbers, this is about as tight as this is the tightest that we have gotten with any of these numbers. As you can see, District 5 is over the target amount by 221. That's the largest deviation from our targeted number of 31,686. Everyone has a pretty even balance. One other thing I need to show you, and that is, in order to not have that bit of District 4 sticking down by Foxwood and South Fork High School, as you saw in this example here in this option 2, in order to make the District 4 line run horizontal much like it does today, and we had to split a census district, and we show the manual calculation there. District 3 picked up 110, District 4 was reduced by 110 out of that total census block in order to make that number work. And as you can see, it makes the numbers pretty close. This is less than a 1% deviation from the targeted amount. This is, I think, is 1.01, isn't it, Samantha?
so.
The 221. So we're right around 1% off of the deviation, which is very good, and is the reason for our recommendation that the board consider redistricting to follow these boundaries.
One other question, too, which we had gotten halfway through, I think, when you and I and Samantha were doing it. All the school board districts stay within their existing districts, so none of that got moved as a reaction to moving any of the boundary lines.
Correct. I put in all of the elected officials so that no one would be redistricted out of their district.
Okay, great. Commissioner Hurd.
And what in District 4, what's currently in District 4 that proposed will go into District 3? Which neighborhoods? Because I'm losing a big chunk on the southeast side.
That's my fault, sorry.
Oh, that's okay. So, let's see here.
That's what we need the maps.
So you would be gaining,
Further east, I think, isn't it?
yes.
Yeah.
There you go.
So there you have. District 3 comes up into Point Santa Gardens here. And then you have all of this. But then you spread down into Heritage Ridge.
So I lose Loblolly.
Correct. But you gain part of Heritage Ridge.
And then you have this piece here.
Also, I think one of the things you may not have, we may not have, see, District 2 is expanded into down towards Salerno Road here, and District 4 is contracted there as well. And in this location, District 3 is contracted back here to the river, and District 4, I'm sorry, District 3 is contracted,
Yeah, so that brownish area becomes
District 4,
District 4.
yes. So you pick up that area.
So, Clyde and Samantha, the purpose of today's hearing is item is to review all this. We're not adopting today, we're not,
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. This is just a presentation to give you all a chance together to talk about it and to look at these districts. We are scheduling an adoption hearing. I think it'll have to be December 14.
I think it's the 16th, isn't
We can check on that.
it? Yeah,
No, it's December 14th.
14th.
After we get some direction here today, we will need to turn over these shapefiles and these boundaries to the county surveyor, and he will need to work on drafting a legal description for each of the 5 districts. So we are hoping to get some direction here today so that we can get started doing that in preparation for a December 14 adoption public hearing.
Well, it is not let's make sure it's a meeting at which the board would adopt a resolution establishing the districts. There's no advertising requirements. It's not a formal public hearing. Obviously, it's held in a public meeting setting. The board has historically adopted its commission districts by resolution. There is a statutory deadline of December 31st that this must be accomplished, and subsequent to the board's decision on a resolution that establishes those districts, then we have an obligation to publish that in the paper for 2 consecutive weeks after that. So those are the parameters you all know, and for the public, one of the compressed timeframes on this is the census numbers were a bit delayed, but that does not take away the constitutional requirement and a statutory requirement that this be done this year.
just a nitpicking thing. Thank you for updating these maps so they were clear, so we could see like actual neighborhood roads, streets, and that kind of stuff. The colors, if it's possible, so like where on the previous one we had, Sam, where it was brown, can we make it a shade of the color that it's supposed to go into so that it's clear that it's going into?
Absolutely. I will refine all of them. This document here was designed to show you where those changes are, so the colors will be straightened out. Likewise, that would be the District 1 color and the
Right.
brown and all of that. This was just showing you the overlay gap.
And my only thing, just for the public, when they see it, they won't, I don't know that they'll know or understand one way or the other on it. So if like on this one, for instance, if that brown can become a lighter shade of green, if that's District 3 that's District 4 that's in, correct?
4.
At least you'll see the change, but if it were like a lighter green or a darker green, at least it would be green and orange and so on. Commissioner Heatherington, you were next. I can come back to you.
I'm glad that you brought the maps with the streets, but number one, I wanted to see the substantial changes in District 2. Number two, to me, it seems like we're trying to match numbers so closely. When we said at our tri-county meeting, it seems like other counties were not trying to keep the 5 districts so even. They had a 3 to 6% threshold. My concern is that we don't split a roadway. So if there's St. Lucie Boulevard and you've got one side District 2 or 1, because then that becomes a problem when we're doing traffic calming and things like that, because you have to get consensus of 2 commissioners, and it's difficult to work within those neighborhoods. So in my mind, rather than matching so precisely, distributing amongst the 5 districts is to make sure that it makes logical sense, not to have one side of the street represented by one commissioner and the other side by another commissioner. That's going to be very challenging to solving neighborhood problems.
Krista?
Yes, let me, And obviously, what the advice that other counties are getting from their attorneys is the advice they're getting. The requirement is that the districts, constitutionally, that the districts as nearly equal in population as practical. That's the issue. So if you have the ability to get them the numbers as close as you have, that is obviously certainly the most defensible position. I'm not aware of any case law or statutory guidance in terms of percentages 3 to 6 is acceptable. That just may be something that another jurisdiction is using as a rule of thumb. There are the other parameters from a legal perspective that, and you've mentioned some of them, is that you want to preserve communities of interest, you want to be compact and contiguous, use geographic and physical features. You try to use census blocks, but sometimes those numbers, as Clyde and Samantha have said, that doesn't always get you where you are trying to go. You don't want to have bizarre shapes. So, and the other thing is the practicality of people understanding, where their district is. If you have some kind of an odd geographic shape or something, if people confuse. So those all go into the mix, and as close as possible as you can get to the numbers, that's the first goal. And then we go from there.
So can you, I don't know what the pink slide down. So this particular slide, what is in pink, what is in yellow, and what is in the light purple?
So the pink goes into District 1. The orange color is your district, I believe. And we can work it, if you can split census tracts like you did on the one other, I know, but you did it on the other one for 110. There's probably in that pink coral color, there's probably 20 homes maybe in that piece. I'm willing to go back over on the west side of the district where we took that out. That little wedge in there, if there's a place to pick up that 20, I don't disagree with Commissioner Heatherington on specifically like on a road like Old St. Lucie Boulevard where you have traffic calming issues. I'm ambivalent to that one way or the other, so if that fits and we can make that work, great. Does that work for you? I mean, if that's doable, is that what you're trying to get to?
What's your suggestion? I just
So
want to make sure
that's-
it's logical. And there could be others in, these maps are very hard to distinguish. Like that, that second map is very hard to tell
So
what's in there.
that coral color on the bottom, their proposal is to move that into my district at this point, which is probably about 20 homes, I think, in those 2 blocks. The light green up top, the pea green, was removed from my district to squeeze me down a little bit more. I'm sure there's a way to go if we can go into census
that
tracts, just swap those 2 nodes out of there so it balances about the same number. And we talked about, at least in our meetings, we used the railroad as a line, we used US 1 or A1A as a line. It doesn't have to be that way, it makes it a little bit more consistent, but if for your neighborhood that makes more sense, I'm happy to do that, that's fine. And if there's any other things that have that street issue or something, that's fine too. Commissioner Campbell, I think you were next.
No, I was third.
Commissioner Hurd?
Up too, on back there.
Yeah, my only issue is because of my tenure on this board, I have institutional relationships. And one of those institutional relationships is with Loblolly, because I've represented them for 19 years. Commissioner Smith, you can certainly empathize. Over the years, we go into battle for our different districts and neighborhoods, and we get to know those people really well. And I am loath to sever that relationship with that development.
Do you want to have him go next in response to that?
Yeah.
I just have a quick comment.
Let me just go down to
Sure.
relative to that, and then I'll bounce back to you. Can't see her thing.
I hear what you're saying, and I do have relationships with people in Loblolly myself, personal relationships, and Loblolly considers themselves Hope's Town. So that, it's South County. The way that whole, when Lee Rubberman was there in Heritage Ridge, that whole thing doesn't make sense. And it's very
The reason
confusing.
that was because Lee was up in Heritage.
I know, yeah. So, anyway. So, I don't know if you want to have a turf war.
Well, so,
Yeah.
again, the purpose
Sure.
of today was to,
Okay.
Sure,
I'm in.
I'm willing to have a turf war.
Okay, let's do it.
so the purpose of today was to have this conversation. And the conversation was to point out things collectively. We don't get to sit down in the room with you all and say what's important, what's not important, so on. So I think the idea is the feedback we're giving the staff. They'll probably meet with us again, right? And go over any changes and individually. And then when we get back to adoption time, maybe those things will get worked out.
We can certainly schedule meetings with each of you individually following this meeting. My only, I guess, response or comment is, it's not usually as easy as just a swap here and a swap there, because there are different numbers of population in each of these areas, and it causes us to have to shift other places in other districts in order to try and balance all 5. So it's,
The beauty of all this is there's a computer these days. When I first did this, when I was first elected, it was not done by Wink. It was done by drawing maps.
We were
it's
using
definitely,
a quill, and there was a candle.
It was, exactly. And I had round little glasses versus the old
Right.
ones that I have today. Do you want to go before
I
Commissioner
I
Gabby?
just wanted to let the board know that Marcia Powers, the chair of the school board, was here earlier to support. They've seen these options, and number 3 was a place where they were comfortable. And we've also looked at your appointments for like the local planning agency and those things to ensure that those individuals don't get moved into a different commissioner's district. So I just wanted to get that out.
My appointees are willing to move if they have to.
It's now your turn.
Thank you. We didn't say it was going to be easy, Chair Smith.
I know having you to my right is,
I think of option 3 as basically the Hobe Sound, Louisiana purchase. I mean, I spoke to some commissioners in Okeechobee, and they were concerned that District 3 would go all the way up into Okeechobee County. But that being said, can you go to the part where it shows Citrus Boulevard?
I mean, hopping over the canal to that thin strip
Well,
there.
I get there's no way to zoom in on this, right? That little sliver is over right along the canal, that little section right in here. That is, what side? The canal is south of that?
Yes.
So they're crossing the canal, having one side of the street, so from the southern side of Citrus to the canal.
correct.
And this section up here, the little triangle, 96th Street to, yeah, is that a defined neighborhood, or is that just, those are sort of freestyle homes in there, correct?
There's a defined neighborhood there running along the canal.
You know, when you come across the bridge,
Yeah.
Arundel Street Bridge, that's
Right.
that straight line over Citrus.
Like,
So,
yeah, I mean, and then I thought the canal would make a more logical thing, divider than the southern portion of Citrus. If you could then go up to the western boundary, the northwestern boundary of the option 3. That little bump up at the north, is that the prison?
Yes,
I get to keep the inmates?
yes.
I have you know, we talk about community
Relationship.
and relationship type. A lot of relatives up in there.
I did look at the option of moving the line straight up.
How many people are currently guests of
It's
the
around
state?
1,300.
How many?
1,300.
I don't mind giving those to District 3 and taking back the south portion of Citrus.
You're only talking,
That's 1,200 people up
no,
there.
on Citrus, you're only talking
And the triangle.
100 maybe.
It's not an equivalent number to the 1,200.
Then that's even better. I'll still trade the 1,200 guests of the state for some, you know.
Do they count as a single, every one of them counts as a person?
Yes.
Well, I mean, officially they are.
I mean, they're not voters, but
Aren't they? Oh, you can't vote in jail, but you can
Not
vote
if you're
after
a
jail, right?
felon.
You can vote as a felon now,
You
right?
cannot,
Still no?
unless you've been, if you're a felon, not unless you've had your rights restored and gone through that process.
Yeah, and you have to.
But the case law out there is thou must count them.
No, I get it. I get it. I'll be meeting with you privately. You thought you were getting an approval today, like, hey, option 3.
No.
We were hoping.
It's not been a great
It's been a
day.
big day for you, Clyde.
Commissioner Heatherington.
I was just going to say, and again, Ms. Story outlined the guidance from the state, but we're using the census response, which was at what percent? Say 80%, lowest response that we've had in the census in some time. So we're using that, which I know we have to use that as an assumption, but I can tell you, right, that those numbers are not spot on. I could just walk through my neighborhood in Golden Gate and some neighborhoods in District 2, and I can guarantee you that all of the residents are not reported. So that's why I'm saying we're trying to do apples to apples, numbers to numbers, and I feel like there's a more logical way to do this.
And Commissioner, you and I've had a conversation, and I'm not being argumentative, but for people who are listening. So, certainly the defensibility of redistricting is important, and I'm not, there's certain parameters. So the use of census data, whatever its issues may have been in the last census, is still the database that is most widely used. I don't know what other database there would be. Understanding what we all know about what probably occurred because of COVID and many other things. But dropping in and using some other database and then defending it, I don't know. That may be problematic now, so we're doing the very best we can using the data. One of the things that your staff has done and tried to minimize is having to go in and do manual counting of and carving up blocks. That can be, there's some basis. Because of this long-term knowledge of how many persons per households, the staff can then go to counting rooftops and then multiplying that by the number of typical persons per household. So, we start building our defense of if you deviate, but from your county attorney's office, we want to advise you of the best way to defend any decision you make. And so, no, you don't have to be exact. And in the past it was a little less than 1%. A little more than that. The closer you get to perfect, the better, and that's even more defensible than that. But anyway, your concerns are justified. Splitting up long-term areas and streets and all those things. Just know that what your staff has is that if you push down one and it pops up, and we are under a deadline, and I can tell you they've been working diligently to try to craft this. So anyway, now we're up against a statutory deadline
What's the deadline?
before the end of the year. And you have meetings on December 7th and 14th, and scheduled meetings currently.
Commissioner Campy.
Thank you. I think the 1%, I appreciate the 1%, because obviously we've been doing some kidding up here. I have, at least. But I think that that's fair to the commissioners. So I appreciate the fact, and I get that maybe in other areas you could deviate 2 or 3 or 4 or 5%, but I think amongst the 5 of us, I think rounding them out as close to the 20% of the total works. And I get the concept of a push me, pull me, that if you pull something from one side, it's another. Miss Lovelady and I happen to be on the school redistricting citizen advisory committee for the school district. And we were looking at similar situations where we're, probably more important than this is where will families send their kids to school? Or if you went to one high school one year, the next year you might go somewhere else. So we were very careful to review that and look at all of the, consequences, the ripple effect of each decision, from elementary school to middle school to high school. Are they on a bus? Are we taking one ethnic group and putting them into a more generic kind of homogenized high school versus, so we try to take those things, and it was supposed to last about 10 different meetings, and I think we did it in 3. But they had a percentage. They said, okay, if you're looking at the houses, they assumed 1.5 or 6% of the population into the houses. Do we not have an option for similar to that? They didn't have our software. They had to do it a little more old school, and it seemed to work out relatively well. Now, what we were trying to do was balance out populations within high schools, not within the communities. So it was a little easier to pull. But the same kind of thing. You didn't want one side of the street going to South Fork and the other side of the street going to Martin County High School. And I think we did pretty well with that. Now, I had an opportunity to sit with our staff, like the rest of you, but the difference between this meeting and those previous individual meetings is we don't know what each other is thinking. I know that Commissioner Hurd and Commissioner Jenkins were joking about a turf war for Lob Lolly, but they're both interested in keeping it, so I don't know. Once we leave this room, they're not allowed to speak again, and so I don't know what the options are. I'm not kidding about trading out the prison population into District 3 if he needs to balance things out, and hanging on to some of my, not Ed Campy's, but District 5's historic neighborhoods. Or, like Commissioner Hetherington said, where if you split, and we asked you to do that, where you split some streets on the north and south side of a street. Now, those are normally bigger roads like Indian and Citrus and things like that. The only advantage, at least on Citrus, is I don't think people that living right up on the road on Citrus feel like it's such a busy road. They're not like neighborly with the people across. But when you get over by, what is that where we lowered the speed limit? Where St. Lucie Boulevard, I mean, those people across one side of the street or the other, there are differences. If Commissioner Hetherington had to do some traffic calming, which he has had to do in the past, how are you going to pull that off? So I don't envy your job. Let me ask you this final thing. When we were meeting, if we did not get to the December 31st deadline, what happens? What happens if we didn't do it?
You go up there.
Oh, I go up into my own district. At least I'd still live in the district. Commissioner Smith's pointing at the prison.
Yes, that's why I'm laughing.
See, he's got some humor.
There's a constitutional requirement that you'd redistrict. I don't know if anyone has never not, so I don't know.
I hear you say something that it would get pushed to 2023?
But no, you were allowed to do redistricting in odd-numbered years, but the Florida Constitution, Article 8, Section 1E of the Constitution of the Florida requires that after each decennial census, the Board of County Commissioners shall divide the county into districts of contiguous territory as nearly equal in population as practical.
There you
You
go.
do have options in odd-numbered years if you wanted to adjust
Oh, but you
otherwise.
still have to do the initial
But you
version.
must do this.
Ms. Lovelady, you are next.
I wanted to, light's been on for a moment, but I wanted to speak to Commissioner Hetherington's thought about using another database. We do get population numbers from other places, but none go down into the neighborhood block level, and that's the difference between the census numbers and frankly why they do it every 10 years, because they do these little blocks. I don't know if I can zoom in. If you see the fainter lines between all these, they're very small. Some are very large, depending on the land area. But I don't know of any other database that you could divide the population into just like neighborhood territories. So I just wanted to address that.
Thank you. Commissioner Jenkins.
So I was kidding about the turf war thing. My only logic is, it's logical. I'm easy. I'm the easiest guy in the world, right? So So Loblolly separated physically from your district by the park, right? It's on the other side of the tracks. It makes my line straight. That's where I came up with Loblolly. So you know what? Here's my deal. I already need a helicopter. I have more cows than people. Whatever it takes. You know, if I need to stay on my side of the canal, I'll stay on my side. I'm easy. So if you got to massage my thing to make things work for everybody else,
Well, one thing's
knock yourself out.
One thing's for sure, that change with the amount that are in that plum-colored purple, I guess if you call it that, that'll push some
Oh, yeah.
buttons some other direction. But that's why we're here having this conversation, to kind of ferret out whatever is important. So I think, Clyde, you had the next light on.
Yes, I wanted to follow, I wanted to go exactly where you were just mentioning, Mr. Smith, Commissioner Smith. If you swap the prison population, for instance, so that District 3 gets more and District 5 gets fewer, and you give this area to District 4, that's going to cause a cascading effect on District 2 and it just goes down the line, and we end up with dividing other areas in other ways than what you see here. So we appreciate all of the comments and concerns you have, but we are concerned with our deadline of getting to the end of the year here and not needing perhaps a special meeting or anything like that.
Well, here's something I would also suggest, and maybe this is not such a good idea, but anyway,
I'll decide.
you'll decide? Okay,
If
great.
it's a good idea, then let's hear it.
Again, part of the purpose for doing this is for us to talk about it, but you also may want to reach out to your communities and see what their input back on the shape changes are to them. Are they ambivalent about whether they're in District 2, 1, 3, 5, or is it important to them to be in a district because there's a rationale for that for them? You know, I back to the city of Stewart a little bit. I have the city of Stewart kind of meandering all the way up into what people still think is all Jensen Beach, and there's a whole bunch of Stewart up in Jensen that people have no idea really that that's in Stewart. And so sometimes what we think is important necessarily isn't to our residents, but you might want to reach out to Loblolly and find out what their thoughts are, and do they have a bone in the fight, one or the discussion, one way or the other. Commissioner Hetherington.
I would just say, where are the maps that you have on the screen? Are those on? I cannot find those in my agenda.
They're not. We had to prepare them in order to answer the questions about where the specific boundaries are. We had to prepare them post.
So it sounds like we're maybe going to have individual meetings and come back to.
I asked yesterday when I looked at some of the maps, I couldn't tell because of the pixelation. It's so awful. You just, I mean, if we were having this conversation right now, you couldn't tell 5 blocks what was in, what was out. And so staff, to their credit, popped these, I think, last night or whatever together to give us a more zoomed in ability to look.
I would just like to see though, if we are going to push this to December, I'd like to have a copy of those maps and just be able to look at them.
Certainly.
And so with all the ideas, Clyde and Samantha, there sounds like there's probably 4 at least potential options that might happen as per the conversations. Kind of test them out some, and when you schedule our individual meetings, come back to us and show us, here's what moves. You know, if the prison moves and Harold's thing moves, and, you know, I don't know any other way to get there other than to test it out again. And
So you're expecting staff to come to you on the 7th of December, and then that will give us just another week to finalize and.
yeah, so we got a couple of weeks between now and then to produce some options.
Holidays.
Sorry,
My
Clyde.
takeaway from this meeting is that Commissioner Jenkins said we could do whatever we wanted.
Knock yourself out.
Well, on
Okay,
that
so-
note, and this may be stating the obvious, and I don't mean to minimize anybody's comments, but for people listening, Martin County is not a single-member district county. Everybody votes for everybody. I'm not minimizing your relationships that you have with constituents, but that's important for the public. Other jurisdictions, it makes a difference on who you get to vote for. In Martin County, everybody gets to vote for everybody.
This would be an all-day meeting if that were the case.
Yeah.
So, anybody else have any more input to give staff to come back to us with on where we are?
Can I go over to just clarify
Yes, ma'am.
direction? So we want to try to look at putting Loblolly back, and then put the prison into District 3. And
The strip of land along the north side of the canal.
Yeah, that was Campy's,
Yeah.
whatever.
I'm just.
I did say
taking
that
notes.
I'm good.
No, but Samantha,
I will come and meet with you. I won't do it on
for the
vicious.
purposes of testing this stuff, I think you're right on track. There are 4 or 5 issues that, from what everybody talked about, that are important to them, to at least to understand what happens. Loblolly is 1. North of the canal, the strip in Ed's district is number 2. The prison population, number 3.
Splitting streets.
Stacy's neighborhood at the north end of Old St. Lucie Boulevard. With those, some homes in there, the western end of mine, if you can swap them out, if there's enough out of there. Were there any other,
Canal?
talked about the canal, north of the canal for Ed's district? How about yours on the western end of yours on 2? Were there anything in there or no? Okay.
That's the river, right?
Well,
You
she
always
went,
have the record of the meeting. You can go back and listen to it
she
again.
went past the turnpike
Canal. Yeah.
before, and
Yeah.
now it comes back to the east side of 95.
I'm ambivalent about that.
Okay, so is that enough direction to kind of give you some homework to come back to us individually and look, and the next time we see this will be on the 7th?
Yes.
We can schedule for the 7th, and then hopefully,
Adoption on the 16th, or 14th, rather, 14th. Great job, thank you, guys.
thank you, members of the board.
Anybody from the public? I don't see any want to comment on this. If you're watching this and you have any input, please let our aides know, and we'll try to factor that into the conversation. Okay, guys, thank you. That's the end of our agenda. Commissioner comments. Commissioner Hurd?
One thing, and that is that the LOSUM schedule is to come out today. I don't know if it's come out already, but is it possible to have a summary on December 7th? Because the LOSUM, have the new LOSUM numbers come in? Do you know? Because it wasn't going in a good direction for Martin County in the last month or 2. It's gone absolutely the wrong way. So let's find out where we stand.
If we have time, Commissioner, to put something together, we'll absolutely do that. And we'll make sure you all get it ahead of time if we can.
Okay.
Okay. Commissioner, is that it? Commissioner Campy? Commissioner Heatherington? Commissioner Jenkins? Just a reminder, we talked about it again this morning, please come prepared next commission meeting with your priorities so that we can kind of get them organized and put in place. Anything from Taryn? No. Ms. Woods? Any other further public comment for the end of the day? Seeing none in the audience. All those. Thank you, Thanksgiving stuff, and we'll see you in a couple weeks. Meeting adjourned.